Hello, first graders. This is Mrs. Baker with another reading lesson for today. And our reading lesson today, we're going to be thinking about our favorite characters. And I have so many favorite characters, and so I just chose a few to sort of remind you and get you thinking. I love Curious George. Curious George has been around since I was a little girl. Was one of my favorites when I was a first grader. I also love Mo Williams' characters, and Pigeon is so hilarious. The Cat in the Hat by Dr. Seuss is such a funny book, and that's another one that I read when I was a first grader. Um, Probably in kindergarten, if you were a Chippewa kindergartner, you read the book Creepy Carrots. And maybe your classroom teacher even read it over Halloween time to you, but Jasper is one of the favorite characters of so many first graders that I know. Lots of first graders love to read Mo Williams' Elephant and Piggy books, and they're such funny characters too. In school this year, we read about Mrs. McNosh and who hung up her wash, and she was a very silly character. And who could forget the first day of school when we read First Day Jitters and remember Mrs. Jane Hartwell, who was so nervous about coming to school, and it was such a funny ending when we realized that she was the teacher. Over the last few weeks, we've been studying Kevin Henkes, and we've read so many of his books, and some of my favorites are Chrysanthemum, and then I loved Julius, and of course, Lily is definitely a favorite. So, over the last week or so, your teachers have been doing reading mini lessons with you about important characters. And we worked really hard to think about the kinds of books that have a character. We talked about that was the genre of fiction, and that characters are people, or they could be animals or monsters or something else that acts like a person, that talks or moves or just acts like a human being. And so some of the books that we learned about when we were talking about characters and giving examples as when I am old with you, and we talked, whoops, sorry about that. We talked about Granddaddy and his grandson. Elizabeth's School, remember that book? And we learned about Elizabeth. And then in Jamaica's Blue Marker, we learned about Jamaica and Russell, and all of those are great examples of characters. Another day, we went on and we studied how characters have different feelings in books. And we talked about how the author and the illustrator are able to work together to show us how that character feels, and that a lot of times as readers we need to infer or figure out how they're feeling by looking at those illustrations and what the character and thinking about what the characters are doing. And so in A Birthday Basket for Tia, we learned about Cecilia and her great aunt Tia. And we noticed that they were both very happy. And the way that we knew that is because Cecilia and Tia smile and hug. In A Fine, Fine School, remember Tilly and the other children? And remember their principal, Mr. Keene? And Mr. Keene thought the school was so, so fine and so great that he wanted them to come to school all the time, even on Saturdays and Sundays and holidays, and never have any days off. And that made the characters, Tilly and the other children, feel very sad and angry. And some of the things that we noticed in the books is that they made sad, grumpy faces, and that even in some of the pictures, we saw them showing their teeth, opening their mouths, and pulling their hair out and holding their heads. They did a lot of things with their bodies to show anger. We also learned about Sheila Ray the Brave, one of our other Kevin Henkes books, and we talked about Sheila Ray and Louise. And Sheila Ray in the beginning of the book was super brave, and she smiles and she has great posture. She holds her body really straight and she keeps her head up high, and that shows that she is confident and brave. We also saw that Louise in the beginning of the book was scared of a lot of the things that her sister Sheila Ray was doing, and that sometimes she had to cover her eyes. Okay, one of my favorite characters is Lily, and Lily showed up in 3 of our books this year. She showed up in Julius the Baby of the World. Remember, she was Julius's big sister, Lily's Big Day, and Chester's Way. And I'm going to show you a little project that we're going to be doing. And I chose Lily as the character to do my project. So here we go. You are going to find in your offsite materials folder a brown paper bag and a piece of white cardstock. White cardstock is like thicker paper. All right, and you're going to take those two things out. You are going to think of your favorite character. It can be from one of the books that I reminded you about, or it could be from a book that you have at home that you really love, that you read with your family. It could be a book you read in kindergarten. It can be any book that you've read this year, maybe a book that you have in your book bin that you've read in the classroom. So choose one favorite character. And you're going to try to sketch that character with a pencil first. So I sketched it with a pencil, and I tried to make it the size so that when I'm done with it, I'm going to be making a puppet. And so I wanted, whoopsie, sorry about that. I wanted to be able to glue it on the top part of the paper bag. This part I'm going to call the flap. All right, so you're going to make it a size that will fit on that flap pretty well. Okay, so I sketched my I did my best work to sketch Lily. And then I decided I was going to color and decorate Lily, and I did it in the same way that Kevin Henkes did. I used a black marker and I used watercolor paints, just like we did. Some of you may have done in your classroom when you were drawing some of the illustrations that reminded you of a Kevin Henkes book. And you can use any kind of art supplies that you want to decorate your character. Try to make it, maybe you want to look at what the illustrator in the book did and kind of notice some of those details and try to make your character look similar to the way the illustrator did. When you are done with that, you're going to cut your character out neatly with some scissors. You're going to glue your character to the flap of the bag so that it's like a hand puppet. So if you stuck your hand in the bag, you could make the character sort of move. All right? And then you're going to put it in a safe place because you will need this paper bag with the character on it for tomorrow's writing lesson. Mrs. Galosi is going to give you some writing work to do that goes with it. You may have noticed in your material folder that there are some small sheets of writing paper. Well, you're going to be using those and need those to go with this puppet to finish this project for tomorrow. So that's it for our reading lesson today. You did a great job. All right, we'll see you soon. Bye.